Hello and welcome back to Nolan Financial Radio. My name is Tara Nolan with Nolan Financial. If you're new to the show, welcome. This show is all about education because there's not a lack of information out there in the world with the internet. We have more than we need. It's all about figuring out how you ask good questions and figuring out of all that information that's out there, what's actually going to apply to you in your life, in your situation. So with this show, we have a lot of fun and we talk about different topics. We talk about anything money. We've done it. So if you're new to the show, I would encourage you to please visit my website at www.nolanfinancialpartners.com. And there you can go back and look. We record all of these shows, so you can pick a topic that's applicable to you and a question you have burning in your brain right now, and listen to that. And then you can also contact Chris and I at 719-210-4242 if you want to ask a question or set up a complimentary discovery call, because at the end of the day, Chris and I really do this because we want to set you up for success and let you live the life of your dreams. And so that's what this is all about. So glad to have you here. Today is an exciting show for me because the book that I have been working on really diligently for 2 years is about to be released. And we're going to talk about the book and kind of just get into a little bit of the behind the scenes, like who is this book for? Why did I write it? And how it can be useful as a tool. So we're going to have a little fun with that. But before we dive into the book, let me say hello to my awesome co-host, Tony Shore. Tony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tara, and this is a very special episode. I want to let our listeners know this is going to be a good one because not only are we going to talk about this book, but we're going to talk about ways our listeners can get the book. And I know you have some special offers on your website if they buy a few copies and give them to friends, then there's a bonus. There's other things that can be offered to them. And I know that you're going to talk a lot about what's in the book and the importance of it. But I know you poured your heart, soul, sweat, and tears into this book for 2 years to see this date finally come to fruition. And this isn't, I know of a lot of financial books out there, and I've met advisors who have done books, and they're usually very thin and they're very basic and they're all the same. Okay. But this book is very different. You wrote it. It's your personal experiences and observations, and it reads more like a real book. It's not just, a self-help pamphlet, with a few basic points. This is the meat and potatoes and what people need. And I just want to encourage people to check out the show today because they're going to learn a lot. And I think you've got a great website to promote the book that they can go to. And we'll give that address out later, but I think that's awesome. Yeah. They can just go to your normal site, right?
Yeah,
nolanfinancialpartners.com/money
absolutely.
moves. Yeah. Awesome. That's
And
great. And it was scrolling past there. I love it.
that's, it's been great. And like everything, one of the key concepts, Tony, out of the book that I hope people walk away from is I really feel like everything in life is better when you have a team of people around you, supporting you, helping you, filling in those gaps and blind spots that you don't know that you have. I heard this great example, like we've all heard about, like you have a blind spot. And this was the example. I loved it. It said, your blind spot is like having broccoli in your teeth. You are absolutely the closest person to the problem, but somebody else has to tell you about it.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, a little
Isn't that
lettuce or kale or broccoli there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're always so embarrassed. Like, how long has that been there? And
it's
how many people have seen that? But you're the closest to the problem, but yet you can't see it. Somebody else has to tell you. That is a great analogy. And I imagine that plays into my first question for you about the book, which is, why did you write the book? Tara, and
so
part of it is to expose that, to be the person that says, here's where the broccoli problem is at, right?
and I'm glad. I think I'm getting prepared to ask this question because this was one of the things, as I really dove into the book workshop process, it seems like a simple question. Well, why are you writing the book? And it's really hard to answer. And, initially I wrote the book because one of the coaches I work with, because I always have coaches in my life for all the different things that I do, for my horseback riding, for my military career, and obviously for my business growth. And the coach said, you can keep getting more licensing, which will show that you're good at taking tests, but you really should probably write a book because that's when you share with people your philosophy and what matters to you. And so that was one of the reasons I started to write the book. And, I kind of had it drafted for really honestly, Tony, for like the last 8 years, but I just never felt like
Wow.
didn't feel like I was ready yet. Right. Like you want to do it when you're really ready. And so I just
Right.
kind of kept learning about different things and taking different information. And I just started to realize that, one of the things is emotion is such a key factor, much more than math when it comes to financial planning.
Hmm.
And there is no average American out there. So, every person that walks in the door, they want big picture things. Everyone wants security, predictability,
Right.
safety, a feeling of well being, to be able to know that they can live the life that they want to live. I mean, those are the commonalities, but that's where it stops because every person out there is very different in their situation, their family situation, what kind of a job they have. The details go on and on. And so it really became uh, a much deeper thing. And then when you're writing a book, your coach, your editor is always asking you to go deep. And it's not my favorite thing
Go
to do.
deep.
Go
Yeah.
deep. But I think where I'm at with that, when I really had to sit and think about that question, Tony, is I feel like right now in our country, there is just a lot of um, partisanship and tribalism, and not just in America, just kind of around the world. And I really think it's like part of the collective unconsciousness right now. If you think about Carl Jung, I think it's just there's a lot of fear and uncertainty, and people with their money, they want to know, how much is enough? And, am I on track to get there wherever there is for them? And, certainly here is, am I paying too much in taxes? Because we all want to be smart with our money. So I think when people don't know, it's a, not a good place to be. And so that was really one of the things I wanted to do with this book was make it accessible. So, Tony, I spent a lot of time have stories so that, people, not everybody likes a spreadsheet. Have you met people like
Right.
that? And so I
Yeah.
want some stories that people can connect with. And then I really address learning styles because when I was teaching biology at the Air Force Academy, that was fascinating to me to understand, some people like to have lecture and some people can't learn that way at all. They have to read it. And then there's the
Right.
kinesthetic learners, which are typically pilots are that way, where they have to do it. Like they can't just hear about it. They've got to do it. And so in the book, I really took time in every chapter to have a case study. So after you've read the chapter and had the concepts, you can practice it and go, oh, I see how that goes. But then the key, Tony, is with the book, there's 2 downloads that you can go after you've had the book, and you can do the plan for yourself. So then you get to read the book, learn the concepts, and then apply it to you yourself. And Tony, my goal with this book is that anyone who reads it, obviously I would like people to come to me for help, but it doesn't matter. When you've done this, you are going to be fully prepared to go sit down with the financial professional of your choice and say, here's what I want, and here are my questions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key right there. And obviously, it illustrates the importance of working with a financial services professional. But you're right. I mean, you can't just give a few cookie cutter answers that is going to solve everyone's problems. I mean, people know the basics and might know some of these rules of thumb, but like you said, they don't understand the whole picture, and that's what you're providing. That's what the book provides, right? That's the whole picture.
It really does, Tony, because that was, I get people that will come to me all the time and ask, like, well, should I have a Roth? I'm like, well, probably, but I don't know your
Right.
situation.
Right.
Or should I buy an annuity? Maybe. I mean, that's a great tool. So people here with marketing, they hear about the tools like, oh,
Right.
the guy at work, he's investing in these municipal bonds. Should I have those? And the it's like trying to give medical advice over the phone. You can't do it ethically.
Yeah. No, you cannot. Right? Yeah, you can't. And you can give tips and strategies like we do on the show, but the bottom line is when it comes to actually formulating a plan and making the actual decisions, you have to meet personally with a financial services professional to make sure you're not making mistakes. I mean, because there's like we've talked about so many times on the show, Terry, you've talked about the myths and misconceptions out there that people have. about almost every aspect. There are these big myths that have been perpetrated, like when to file for Social Security, or doing what your neighbor did, or the buddy at work, or your brother-in-law. You know what I mean? You cannot operate that way with your finances. It's too serious, especially your retirement savings.
You can, but people do it all the time. I got to do an
Yeah.
interview recently with Kevin Simpson. He's a good friend of mine now, and all he does is he's a person that I work with my clients. So he will manage a portion of someone's money just to target that goal of about a 4% rate of return every year to live off the dividends. And I was talking to him in my podcast and I said, hey, well, how do you help people plan? And he's like, oh, I don't do that. He's like,
Right.
you do that. I don't do that. He's like, I just manage their money in this one way. He's like, your job is to look at the whole picture and make sure that they have the balance and the all the diversity. I just take care
Yeah.
of this one job.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a trap people fall into, and I know you talk about some of this in the book as well. But you've said this before, that people often come to you and they're just dealing with a broker or an investment firm, or all their money's in their 401k. It's tied to the market, and that's it. They don't have an overall plan. That's not an overall plan. That's not a financial plan. Having somebody like your friend have their money in markets, that isn't a financial plan. He's not. Those people aren't looking at the big picture. They're just managing that pile of money and trying to get the best returns possible in that one venue. But there are so many different aspects to it. I mean, there's the tax aspect, there's Social Security, there's I mean, the list goes on and on. They can go through your list of shows that you've done and see all the different topics that are so important. But the book covers a lot of this, and gives you, what I like about the book, Tara, is it gives you stories that are relatable, that illustrate the important and a lot of the issues people need to understand.
And that's the key, Tony, right? Is you got to have a story before you can start to understand, because the concepts get so heavy.
Yeah, they
And you
do.
can quickly just go, I'm not reading that. But so that's why I've used stories with based on a lot of my clients that are they're real stories, and it's interesting because there becomes a lot of commonalities. So I also hope people feel when they read the book that they're not alone. That whatever you have
Right.
going on, I've seen it.
Right.
There's
Yeah, you have. I mean, you with through your clients and people you meet with, and I like how you intertwine some stories and examples like that. Let's take a break here, though, to let our listeners know once again. I was so impressed with the website you have to promote the book and all the different options and offers there, and it talks about it. What's that website once again, Tara?
Sure, Tony. The website is www.nolanfinancialpartners.com. And what's pretty exciting is when you buy the book, when you go to the website, you can put in the number for your order. And then I've got bonuses that are available if you buy one book. There's more bonuses if you buy 3 or more books, because I really want to give a lot of value, and for people that really want to dig in and go, this is exactly what I want, and this is making sense to me. And I want people to get the education so that they know how to ask good questions to take control of their financial lives. And that's what it's
Right.
all about.
Right, and there's people are can also, there's options for bulk orders if you have a book club or a group or a class. Let's say you teach a class, or you own your own small business or a large business, and you want your people to have this understanding. It's a great book for that, and it gives all the options there. I know it's available for pre-order now. It ships soon. You can go to Amazon.com and order the book, right? And so the book is Money Moves, right? That's the title.
Money moves, change where your money lives, change how your financial world grows.
All right. Well, that's great. And you can just look up Money Moves and type in Money Moves and Nolan in Google, or go to Amazon, and it'll pull up the book, and you can pre-order there and do it through the website as well. So I just think that's great, Tara. And I know you work so hard on this. But I love your rich history and background in the book. You know, you talk about flying the big planes and being a part in the military, and some of those stories are fascinating, and how you relate them to this. So it's an interesting book. It's not a boring read at all. I just want to illustrate that because a lot of our listeners might be thinking, "Oh boy, a financial book." And sure, you get into the weeds on some of the topics that they need to know about, but it is so worth it. And this is a quality book. This isn't just, again, it's not just a little pamphlet. This is an actual serious book. And it's great, Tara. I think it's really neat that you've done this. And I know that you're going to, once the book is out, you're going to have special offers for our listeners. If they set up appointments with you and Chris, they can get a copy. So I think that's great.
Well, and one of the things I wanted to share is just to give a mental model to everybody. So one of the models I created as I was writing this book is if you just look at a graph and you have the bell curve, the one that goes up and then back down. And I think, and you divide it into 2 to 3 sections. And I call the beginning part is your get it phase. And this is the part of your life where you're out of college and you're starting your families, you're paying off your student loans, you're buying your first home, all that stuff that you're starting your new job, your career, all that part as you climb up to the middle part, which is, about 60 to 80 years old. And I call that the got it phase, because that's the phase of your life where you've done all your work, you've created your nest egg, and you want to just be enjoying life to the hilt. And then, after, 80 to the moving on that's where you start looking at your give it phase. And you've done so well, and then you're paying it forward to your family and to your church and your legacy. And I think this is so important, Tony, that people look at that picture. And what I want people to do is, and it's in the book, but think about, where are you in that model? And where you are in that model, that is the first thing we have to look at before I can possibly answer the question, should I have a Roth or should I have an annuity? Is we have to go, well, where are you in your life and
Yeah.
what's happening? And I think people forget that, because there's just no one size fits all answer to a question. And it's going to be different depending on where you fit. So this picture I just have in my head is like the little stick person that's either, in the get it phase where they're working their tails off, or they're in the got it phase where they're enjoying life, or they're in the give it phase where they're going, how do I transfer this money to my family tax free?
Yeah. Yeah, and those are all important aspects, and you cover all that in the book, Money Moves, and I think that's fantastic. Now, and I don't want to, drive this into the ground, but because this is what we're talking about, Tara, our listeners can go to nolanfinancialpartners.com/money-moves. It's nolanfinancialpartners.com, and then the slash, and then money-moves. And that website, you can see the cover. Great cover art, by the way. I love that image that's on the cover. And just from the cover, they say you can't judge a book by the cover alone. And with this book, that's true, but the cover is great. I love it anyway. And there's a lot of information there about the book and a link to pre-order the book.
Can I
And
tell
I
you a
think,
story about the cover?
tell me the story about the cover.
So it was really interesting. I was working with a cover designer, and I'm so glad, Tony, that she didn't fire me, because we went through.
Fire you.
Yes. So she came up with 6 fabulous cover designs. So she actually
Mhm.
read my draft of the book and did research about me as a person, and she did a lot of work, and she came up with these great covers. But they were all, I just felt like it was weird, because it was just a feeling. I'm like, that's not quite it. And what shifted finally was when she added the colors, and she created the warm colors so that it has a feeling. Because the other books, they were actually probably really good covers for your typical financial book, because they were very left brain, analytical, very clever. They were really good covers. But I was like, I want this book to be something that feels like a book you would want to have around the house, like not something a textbook you read and stick on the
Right.
shelf when you're
Right.
done.
Yeah.
And I knew we had hit on something, because one of the parts of the process with the cover is you can go to a website called PickFu, and you put it in there, and then all these people give you feedback. And it was really funny, because people came down, and one of the comments that I had was, well, it looks more like a novel than it does like a financial book. And I was like, okay, then we've hit it. We've got it
Yes,
where I
there
want
you
it to
go.
be.
There you go. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, it's the real deal because it's not a typical financial book. And that's why right there. That's a great comment. It looks more like a cover of a novel than a financial book. And you're like, yes, that's what I was looking for, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Well, and so for our listeners, they're like, "Well, wait, can't we see it?" I guess you could hold up a copy there, but you got a copy right there. You've got the first copies in, even though it's not officially out yet. By the time the show airs, it'll be out, so they can pre-order it now. But yeah, they can go to see a really nice full color picture of the cover and the book itself. You can actually go to nolanfinancialpartners.com/money dash moves, and it's down there scrolling underneath us right now. That's nolanfinancialpartners.com money/move. So Tara, let's talk a little bit more about your thought process here with the book. And, I've got some questions that I wanted to ask you about it. I know that you put a lot of personal stories in here. Obviously, um, people need to have a financial plan in place, and you also talk to them about that, and you talk about this in the book. There is a hesitancy, I think, for some people to actually meet with a financial services professional or create that overall plan. I don't know why we put that off.
well, Tony, I think it's that thing on your to-do list. And we've talked about this before, your should-do list.
Should do list. Yeah. Yeah.
Because money is hard, and money ties into, whether you're aware of it or not, it ties into all this kind of financial baggage. And depending, Chris and I were talking yesterday about our backgrounds growing up is, Chris's family were teachers, and my family, we were behind the power curve starting out early, doing a lot of different kinds of jobs. So like my mom and dad didn't finish college until they were in their 40s.
Wow.
So we both grew up in families where there was never quite enough money to go around. And I there were six of us, I'm the oldest of six, and so you have a certain kind of um, money feeling that you get when you grow up like that, where there's, when it comes time to pay the bills,
Yep.
there's just not enough money. So when you've kind of grown up that way, I see that with a lot of clients is actually, once they're out and they're making their own money, even though they're really fine, they still have that feeling. And they tend to have like a lot of money sitting in their checking account, earning no interest, not working for them, because it's filling that hole that they have of that feeling of not having enough. And so that carries over where, why am I going to go talk to somebody else? I worked hard for this money. It's only going to cost me. I'm not going to give somebody else this money that I worked so hard to earn.
Yeah. There
And
you go.
it's a logical feeling because you grew up that way,
Yeah.
and you don't even know it. So sometimes that's why I really talk about some of these things in the book, because there may be things from your childhood that are driving the decisions you're making, and you just don't even know it.
That's true. I think that's true for a lot of people and a lot of us. And I think we're all probably guilty of doing that, or that plays a part. And I think that's easy to see. Now, well, we still have some time left in the show. There's a question I want to ask you about the book, and that is the title. Maybe we should have started with this. What does the title mean? Money Moves. Why did you settle on that title? I know you've been working on this book and thinking about it even longer than 2 years. And I know you had other titles, right? I mean, I remember when you first started this process, you threw out some titles to me, and a couple I really liked. And I was surprised because as you got closer to actually finishing the book, the title changed. So why the title Money Moves? What does that
Well,
mean? What does that mean, Money Moves?
money moves. It was really a process with, writing the book. And like, again, it's that team effort where I had different titles I liked, but I reached out to different groups and said, hey, here's what I'm trying to convey. And I would put the different titles. Which one of these resonates with you, and which one of these speaks to you? And overwhelmingly, people were like, change where your money lives, change how your financial world grows. They were like, I think I'm starting to get that. So you're telling me that there's, maybe I can put all my money in the bank account, and that's great because it's doing one job. But you're telling me that maybe I could put my money somewhere else and maybe it's going to earn a rate of return, and maybe it's going to have some tax advantages, and I'm going to have it available for retirement. So that money was going to have like 3 jobs. And so people, they were really connecting with that, Tony, like, oh, okay. So, it's like going from playing checkers to three-dimensional chess.
Yeah, huge. So the moves and the moves your money can make, and moving your money can make a big difference. So money moves. Is that am I right on that?
You are, and then just the idea I want people to understand is you're working hard for your money. Your money should be working for you.
Right. You
And
got to put your
so
money to work,
if
right?
your money is just stuffed under your mattress or just sitting in a bank account, and a lot of times with good reason, because if you don't know what to do with it, that may be the best place to put it, because you don't
Yeah.
want to just
You
do
at least
something.
have you at least have safety in those
Exactly.
options, like a CD or a savings account or in a coffee can. You have some safety, but there's also loss there. You're not only not gaining, but you're losing because you're not keeping up with inflation, and I know that from what you've told me in past shows.
Exactly. And then so that's where it just gets a little more complicated. So you have control and you have safety. You're not going to lose. But then that's where the idea of inflation, and then that's where it starts to get complicated.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Then you're off to the races and they have to figure things out, right? If only there was inflation percentages built right into every account you can put your money in, then we probably wouldn't have this conversation, right?
maybe. But then it's also based on the tax code and
Well,
legislation,
there's
and
taxes and yeah, okay. So there's a lot more to it than that. And insurance and life insurance and estate
we live
planning.
in
So
we live in a world with other people. So things
that's tr-
things affect
that's
us
true. That's
whether you want them
true.
to or not.
Well, yeah, things affect us and things affect our money. I mean, I always say my analogy is somebody in China sneezes and our markets in the US catch a cold. You know what I mean? One
Yes.
person in China at a company sneezes and our markets catch a cold. So, yeah, it's not just us. There's a lot of things. We live with other people, and it's not even used to be in our families, then it was in our cities, then it was in our states, then it was in our regions. The tri-state area affects us, and then it was our country is affecting us. Now it's the entire world and maybe the universe. We're headed that way. So yeah, there's a lot of things. But before we go, we're out of time. Let our listeners know one more time about the book, how they can learn more about it and get a copy.
Yeah, so the book is available on Amazon. You can go or Barnes and Nobles. You can go to my website, www.nolanfinancialpartners.com. If you buy the book on Amazon, I do encourage you to go to my website, because there you can sign up for some bonuses that go along with the book once you've gotten a copy. So I encourage everybody to read it, because no matter where you are or who you want to work with, it's going to set you up to be able to ask really good questions and prepare you to have that conversation and be the coach of your team, be the coach of your financial team. So I definitely encourage you to have a team, but you want to be smart enough to be in charge of it. And the number, Tony, to call if you want to set up a discovery call with Chris and I is 719-210-4242. That's 719-210-4242. And we would love to help you set up to live the life of your dreams.
All right. And that does it for today's episode of Nolan Financial Radio. Thanks, Tara.
Join us soon for another episode of Nolan Financial Radio. Take care, and we'll talk with you next time.